Paolo Banchero, a 6'10 forward out of Seattle, Washington, led Duke to the Final Four in Coach K's final year. With a combination of size, athleticism, and skill rarely seen in a draft prospect, Banchero will be one of the earliest draftees on draft night and could be the #1 overall pick. After a great season with many bright moments on the biggest of stages, Banchero is ready to take his game to the next level. Now, let's take a look at some of his positives. The first positive is Banchero's shot creation. He is the best big man in this draft in terms of creating his own shot, and it's a selling point that he has over the other two consensus top prospects at his position in Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith. Banchero has a shiftiness and a feel for creating off the dribble rarely seen from a player his size, and he can consistently get off shots that he is comfortable with from any level on the court. Banchero should make an impact as a high-level scorer right away in the NBA. Coupled with his shot creation ability is Banchero's passing ability. His passing got better later on throughout the season, and although he had a ton of talent next to him, as Duke could have 5 players drafted in this year's first round, Banchero still showed impressive playmaking chops, and he showed that he could be at least a secondary playmaker at the next level. But when he's not creating for others, his most impressive shot at this point in time is his mid-range pull-up. Given Banchero's driving ability, defenders oftentimes will sag off in the mid-range or turn their hips to try and beat him to the rim. Banchero has shown a knack for being able to punish that defensive decision with a very deadly mid-range pull-up that he can hit off a number of different dribble moves. While the mid-range pull-up isn't the most efficient shot in basketball, it helps keep defenses honest and it opens up the rest of his shot creation and playmaking ability. The fourth positive is his strength and athleticism, which helps him pull everything together from a skill set standpoint. He is able to put his shoulder into the defender's chest and create space for lay-ins with it. He's able to blow by slower defenders off the dribble. He has the shiftiness to shift his defender out of position 1v1, and he's very solid running the floor in transition as well. And the fifth and final positive for Banchero is his offensive versatility. He can be used in a number of ways on the offensive end, as an initiator, as a go-to scorer, as a power forward that can handle the ball in pick and rolls. He can be used as a roll man. Whatever NBA coach ends up with Banchero on their roster next year is going to have a lot of fun scheming up ways to utilize him on the offensive end. However, they will also have some things that they need to help him improve on, of course, and one of those things will be his defensive consistency. Banchero has shown flashes of being a capable defender, and with his size and athleticism, you would think that he projects as a good NBA defender, but much like other draft prospects, he has issues with consistency. He doesn't have the best motor on that end. There's some off-ball things that need to get cleaned up as well, and Banchero has some work to do on the defensive end. The second area Banchero needs to improve is his three-point shooting. He shot the ball better later on in the season, as he was under 30% from three for most of the year. He did finish at 33%, and the late season improvement is promising, but at this point, Banchero projects as a scorer and not somebody you'd be fully confident in consistently knocking down catch and shoot threes. The third area improvement for Banchero is finishing in traffic. While he's able to use his physical traits and his athleticism to get by guys and score the ball, I noticed he struggled more in traffic with multiple defenders around him. A lot of times it would seem like he got a little bit too sped up for himself trying to blow by a defender and didn't necessarily have the best body control in traffic in those situations. There was definitely some high moments in this regard, but I still think it's an area for him to improve in. And the fourth and final concern I have with him is his off-ball fit. Banchero is really good with the ball in his hands as a shot creator and a playmaker, but if he's not good enough at the NBA level to justify being the #1 guy, then I have some worries into how he'll fit into a team concept playing off the ball. And that is a perfect segue into talking about Banchero's game translating to the NBA level and what his role could be at that level. Now, I think Banchero should probably be the favorite for Rookie of the Year. I think he's probably the most NBA ready in terms of what he does well. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to score the ball and make plays for others instantly at the NBA level. The only thing that could be a worry in the first year or two is his overall efficiency. He wasn't the most efficient player last year at Duke. True shooting percentage was under 56%. You would have liked to see him be a little bit more efficient, especially with all the talent around him that maybe would have made the game a little bit easier for him. Fit-wise, I don't think Banchero will have any issues on a mediocre team or a bad team. He's going to be a guy that's going to see a lot of touches in those scenarios, and he's going to do some things with them. My concern for Banchero is, what is his role on a championship team? Is he going to be good enough to potentially be the number one option on a championship team? I would probably bet against that. Will he be able to fit in and complement a number one guy as the number two guy on a championship team? That remains to be seen, and that is the question mark with him. And the biggest factor in that is, can he be a guy that can space the floor and knock down open three-point shots? He shot the three ball really well in the second half of his season last year at Duke. So if we're just looking at that, then I wouldn't really have any worries about that. He'll be able to be a guy that shoots catch and shoot threes and then attack closeouts and make the right pass or finish at the rim and make the right play, and that fits in really well within a team concept. However, if he's not able to knock down open catch and shoot threes and be a floor spacer, then you start to have some concerns. I think he will be able to be a good enough three-point shooter at the NBA level to play off guys and space the floor and be a threat, and I think he has some cutting potential given how quick and big he is for a power forward. He could be a guy that could tear defenses apart if he makes the right cuts, if guys play off him and aren't paying attention to him off the ball. So I think he will figure out how to be a good off-ball complement, but that is the thing I'm going to be looking for in regards to his game in the next 3 to 4 years. Now, obviously, the other swing factor for him is his defense. He could end up being a good defender, maybe even a really good defender, because his physical tools are good. However, I'm not confident he'll ever be the guy that you put up against the best players in the world, that you have go up against a Giannis Antetokounmpo or a LeBron James or whoever. Now, he has size and athleticism, so idealistically he would be a good guy to throw up against those guys, but on the ball he's just not a good enough point of attack defender, in my opinion, to be able to hang with those sort of matchups, at least initially in his career. Now, that's the case for pretty much every prospect. Most young players take a year or two to get up to speed in regards to defending at the NBA level. However, compared to the other two players at the top of this draft class, with Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren, Banchero lags behind defensively. Jabari Smith, I have more confidence being a great on-ball defender that you can put up against the best players in the world, and he can be competitive guarding them. Chet Holmgren, I have much more confidence in him being an elite rim protector. Both Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren have an area of defense where they have the potential to be elite in. I don't see the same thing for Banchero, and when you consider the fact that he's also a more questionable three-point shooter than those guys, those would be the two reasons why he would get drafted below them. But obviously he's a better shot creator and a better passer than both those guys, so it's going to be really interesting to see how the draft order shakes out in the draft lottery, because different teams could value different traits differently, and depending on how they value them, that will determine where Banchero ends up going in the NBA draft. In regards to Banchero's floor, I think he will be at least a starting caliber player. It's really hard to find a guy with his shot creation and shiftiness and size and athleticism and passing ability in the NBA at the power forward spot. So just the uniqueness of those traits gives him a pretty high floor, in my opinion. He's a pretty safe pick. And if we're looking at his floor, it would mean he's probably not a good three-point shooter and probably not a good defensive player, but still those traits are very, very useful. I mean, Julius Randle has made a career and gotten paid a lot of money just being off a guy who doesn't play defense, doesn't shoot threes well, but can attack off the dribble and pass for others. But I think Banchero is a smarter overall player than Julius Randle and doesn't have some of the same issues. So it's really hard to project Banchero's floor being below a starting caliber player. As far as his ceiling, Banchero could potentially be a top 10 player. I wouldn't rule it out when you have that combination of physical traits and skill, it's hard to roll it out. When you look at top 10 players, a lot of them can control the offense from the perimeter with the ball in their hands. They're a guy you can give the ball to on the perimeter, and they're going to make things happen. They're going to make their teammates better. They're going to run pick and rolls. They can isolate late in a game and take it over. And if you have a shot clock off, game tied scenario, you can give them the ball and they'll get off a solid look. I could see Banchero easily being that type of player offensively. It's just all the other small little things that goes into that will determine whether or not he's a top 10 player or not. To be a top 10 player, I also think he's going to have to be a positive defender and a good three-point shooter to get defenders to play up on him when he's handling the ball on the perimeter. Because at this point, early on in his career, assuming he doesn't shoot the three ball too well, I just expect defenders to sag a step or two off to give them a little extra cushion to try and stay in front of him. And if he can't pull up from three and make them pay consistently, then he's going to have a little bit of a harder time getting into the paint. So in terms of Banchero's ceiling, he needs to be a good three-point shooter and a good defensive player. And if he does both of those things well, then I think that'll tie everything together from a shot creation and a playmaking standpoint to make him potentially a top 10 player at some point in his career. As far as good team fits for Banchero, I think Indiana would be a really good fit. They could use some shot creation, and I think Miles Turner, if he remains there long term, is a good fit next to Banchero. I also think San Antonio, if they were able to jump up into the top 3, would be a really good fit for him as well. They could use a shot creating forward. They have a lot of wing and perimeter players. I also like Orlando for him. I think he's a good fit next to either Wendell Carter Jr. or Mohamed Bamba. I think they need to keep one of those guys and trade one of those guys. Mohamed Bamba is a restricted free agent, so it's hard to necessarily trade him, but I think Banchero at the 4 there would make some sense. They do already have a lot of shot creation in their lineup, with Franz Wagner being a solid shot creator at a combo forward position, and they have a lot of guards there in Orlando. But that's the problem with a number of teams at the top of the board, is they have some solid shot creation. Even a team like OKC, Trey Mann came on strong late in the year, and they have SGA. With Houston, you got Şengün, who has a solid skill set for a big man. You got Christian Wood there right now. You got Jalen Green, of course, Kevin Porter Jr. And then Detroit, you have Cade Cunningham, and it would be cool to see Banchero with Cade Cunningham. I just am not sure how cohesive their fit is long term. Both of them have shooting questions and are kind of similar players, with Cade just being a more perimeter wing-based guy and Banchero being more of a forward. So it'll be interesting to see where Banchero lands and how his skill set fits in with what that team already has. And with that being said, that's a wrap for this draft profile. I hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.